Many times patients will hang up the phone and go, well, they can't get me in for 2 weeks. I'm going to try the next office. And they'll try the next office and they'll have a better impression on the phone. And then they'll forget to call and cancel that other appointment. They'll look for something that really makes them feel connected and that the practice cares about them. And they can have trust and confidence in the doctor's care, because that's what patients are really looking for.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. I have a repeat guest today I'm super excited to have. Before we get into the guest, I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their support, allowing me to come to your inbox at 5 a.m. every single Friday with a new episode. Also want to remind people about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice. 2025 will be back in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale at Pier 66. We are just finishing picking speakers. Speakers should be announced very shortly after this episode is released. And I want to briefly segue into my event. My guest spoke in the first year in 2023, and then also attended as a vendor and panelist in 2024. Before we segue into the content, I just wanted you to kind of tell everybody about your experiences, both as a speaker and then a sponsor at the event, so they learn more about what we do at Supercharge.
I absolutely loved Supercharge. Both events were very energetic. The speakers and the attendees were really excited to be there. During the first year, there were about 25 of our clients and team leads who joined me and my team there, and they loved it. They loved the variety of the speakers. The content was great, actionable items to bring back. So both times were really valuable and really enjoyable.
That's great, and I appreciate you just sharing a little snippet of your time there. And I'm sure you advise everybody to try to make it to the event. Again, it's September 26th and 27th, 2025 at Pier 66. You can go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com. We should be updating the speakers very shortly on the site, and then we'll start promoting the event. So as you know, my guest is Susan Leckowicz. Susan was my coach in my practice when I was practicing. She was a guest a while back. She has a training she's doing called Crush the Call Bootcamp. Susan is a business development coach for dentists and the CEO of Dental Coaches. She spent over 20 years as a dental hygienist before becoming a coach for dentists and their teams. In addition to her dental hygiene associate's degree, Susan holds a BS in business administration from Boston University with a concentration in finance. Susan is most passionate about working with doctors and their teams in creating connection, clarity, and trust with their patients in their care. Welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Susan Leckowicz. Susan, again, thanks for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here.
So Susan, why don't we kind of segue into kind of where you got your idea, because I think it's really important to talk about crushing the call. As I know, and I've practiced for many years, the person on the phone is probably the most important employee, especially when it comes to that first impression, when someone hears about the practice, whether it be through a referral, whether it be through an online search, whether it be from an insurance company. That person on the call has to give the best impression, or there's a chance they will not be coming in. So just kind of, we touched on this briefly, and I think it's really important as to why this became such a passion of yours now.
So one of the things that I've found is many of the offices that we coach will hire someone new. They'll have them at the front desk. Many times they have no dental experience and they have them answering the phone. That's the first thing they have them doing, and they give them very little training. I heard a stat where they said patients will call upwards of 5 to 7 offices when making a decision about where to become a new patient. And I decided that this first impression of the phone with the new patients has to really stand out and set that office apart. So I went through a boot camp called Crush the Stage to learn how to become a better speaker. And it was intense and it was great. And I realized that coaching one call a month on phone training wasn't enough for our teams. So we created a boot camp that involves weekly coaching calls and trainings, and we're training team leads on how to continue the success of it by logging in, listening to calls, and really inspiring the team that they are the brand ambassadors of the practice, and that patients are nervous and scared, and they have to find ways to connect with them on the phone.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I give my seminars, I talk about my wife, Rissa, had some plastic surgery done. And we went we went around to a number of different offices. And one of the offices, which we ended up choosing, the person at the front desk, her name was Catherine. And she had a sign that says she's the director of first impressions, which I think was a great sign. And I talk about it in all my sessions now because it really left a lasting impression on me. Whereas in this case, the person on the phone, it should be the director of first impressions. That if you don't give the best first impression on the phone, there's a chance the patients aren't going to come in. But real quick, talk about, because I know there was an instance at Supercharge that you decided to really focus on this. Can you touch base on that? Because I think it's really important as to why or how you came up with this.
One of the speakers used the term brand ambassador. They're the brand ambassador. And one of the things I've learned with marketing is that patients will Google dentist near me, implants near me, Google what they're looking for, go to the website, spend a little bit of time on the website, then they'll read the Google reviews and they'll pick up the phone. So how do we make the consistency happen between the Google reviews and that phone experience? Because I think they get excited, right? They read some really great reviews. One of my clients had a review of, you'll never find a better dental practice, never. And the team was just lackluster on the phone. And I'm like, we have to keep that momentum going and that excitement going with that patient. And they also think that, okay, well, I scheduled the patient. Well, I think many times patients will hang up the phone and go, well, they can't get me in for 2 weeks. I'm going to try the next office. And they'll try the next office and they'll have a better impression on the phone. And then they'll forget to call and cancel that other appointment. They'll look for something that really makes them feel connected and that the practice cares about them. And they can have trust and confidence in the doctor's care, because that's what patients are really looking for.
They are 100% looking for that. So let's talk about your thought process on getting the team members trained and inspired to create an outstanding first impression of the office, especially to first-time callers. Obviously, they should do it to every patient who walks in the door, but especially to the first-time caller. So why do you think that that's the case?
To inspire them? Why it's important to inspire them?
Yeah, inspire and get them trained. Why do they need to be trained versus just handing the person the phone and say, hey, get to it, get the patient to come in? Because I believe that the phone is the most important equipment in the practice.
Yes.
And sometimes we have the least paid person to be on there.
Yes.
So what is the premise behind getting them trained so they can get patients to want to come in the practice?
So the goal is to be able to create a really great phone call, crush the call, book the appointment, have efficiency to call, take control of it by asking questions, and then get the patient off the phone. Because we want to make sure these appointments or these calls don't go more than 6 to 8 minutes at the most. And we want that person to hang up the phone and look forward to coming in. Feel really good about the choice that I made in this office. So our greeting is, thank you for choosing Dr. Len Tao's office. Thank you for choosing. We know patients have a choice. So we want them to also feel good about the team member, about what they're doing, because I believe dentistry really changes people's lives, and every patient needs a dentist. And I want patients to like their dentist, like their practice, like the experience. So if people are nervous and people believe dentistry is expensive, which it is, it's an investment in their health. How do we really elevate that whole experience? And how do we get that patient to feel good and the team member to feel good about, okay, I really helped this person because they're scared. And I'm training them to think about what's really important to this person. They might be calling and asking about their insurance. They might not even know how their insurance works. They might have just gotten this insurance, but what's the question behind that? What's important to them, and finding that out and really being able to assure them that they're going to be well taken care of.
Now, in order to make sure that the team member is answering the phone appropriately, there has to be a way to record the call and listen to them. There's a lot of different companies that do this. I know that you can, the cheapest option, least expensive option is going to be to get a call reel number, record the phone call, and listen to the calls. Obviously, that's going to take a lot of time for the team member to do that, or the team members who are managing that team member to do that, but there are other ways to accomplish this. So can you talk about some of the ways of why the call has to be recorded to be able to do this?
Well, the important part about recording the call is to really hear both sides of the conversation, because you could be like, oh, our team is friendly on the phone. I'm at the front desk. I hear them talking to patients. Well, you're not hearing the other side of the conversation, and you're not hearing the tone of the voice. You're not hearing the cadence of the conversation. We're coaching them to really take control of the call and do that by asking the questions, controlling the call, asking the questions, and finding the right appropriate time to insert what we call a positive statement. Say something positive about, find out why the patient's calling, what made them call today, make a positive statement. So glad you found us, Len. You're going to love Dr. Tao. He's amazing. Find out what's going on. So you need to hear both sides of the conversation. And some platforms make it really efficient to listen to these calls. Scheduled call, unscheduled call. Here are the keywords. And we really talk about having a new patient call slip that's really like a checklist of things we want them to do. And we score the calls, and we want them to think about connecting with the patient by using their name 3 times in the conversation, saying something positive about the office, finding out why they're calling, giving them hope that we can help them. And if we don't schedule them, how do we leave the door open? So if it's someone who's calling wanting to use a Medicaid plan and we don't participate with that, well, they might not be able to find someone who can get them out of pain for a couple of weeks. So we want to be able to talk about, we have flexible payment options. We want to leave that door open. Call us back. If you can't find someone to get you out of pain, Len, I'm sure it's been very hard being up all night with a toothache. We can help you. So we have to think about, how can I find out what's going on with this patient? And if I don't schedule them, how can I leave the door open for them to come back?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned scoring them. So one is, do you recommend that they use, I don't want to say a script, I don't like scripts, but do you recommend that there's a select number of questions they ask and they just go through these questions and write notes on it? And then on the flip side, when the team member or whoever in the office is listening to them, you talk about a scorecard or scoring them. So can you talk about those two things?
Sure. So we created a scorecard with, all words that began with C. And we want to make sure our greeting, we want them to smile when they pick up the phone, which changes the tone of your voice. And I know you've coached this before and talked about this. Smile when they pick up the phone, get the patient's name, connect with that patient by using their name, find out why they're calling, create some type of statement, some type of empathetic statement. I listen sometimes to these calls where someone will say, oh, I'm in a lot of pain. And the team member go, what's your email? And I'm like, come on, can we, I'm really sorry you're in pain. Can we just kind of go there with them, right? And create some way to let them know that they called the right place. So glad you found us. You've called the right place. Have you seen our Google reviews? Yes, I've read up all the reviews. That, I like to direct that. Try to find something. Doctor's going to take great care of you. And I hear on these recorded calls, you can hear the patient say, oh, he's going to take good care of me. Like they're relieved. So how do we connect on that? And then how do we, go through collaborating? Okay, do they have dental benefits they're using? How does that work in our office? Let me explain how that works. Many patients choose to come here because they don't want their, insurance company limiting their choices. We have many patients on that plan. Here's what we can tell you. So how do we collaborate with all those and then schedule the call? So we're looking for all of those points. And if they don't schedule the call, that's okay. But how do we leave the door open? And, if we did all the other steps, we can get 4 out of 5. We're happy. That
makes a lot of sense. And, I think the biggest thing I like to take away from this is that you need to sell the practice. So when someone says, tell me about your previous experience, dentist, oh, I hate needles. Well, Dr. Tao, he gives painless needles. Did you happen to read over 500 Google reviews we have? How many people mentioned that he gives a painless needle? Right there, you're going to help convince the patient to come into the practice. I think and I hate to say this, I think it's common sense when you have a conversation, but you have to be willing to get out of the questions that you ask and sell the practice. And if you do that, I think it's a win-win-win for everybody involved.
And we like to coach, we need to promote the practice. We have to promote the practice. We need to believe that this is the best practice, that we create great care. And even if they're struggling with that, I'll say, read some of the reviews to them. This is something one of our patients said. This is something this is what our patients are saying. So you definitely have to make it stand out and set yourself apart. It can't be, just another phone call and another intake. Here's what happens. They sound like intakes, right? You can tell they've got the practice management software thing up, and what's your name? What's your email? What's your address? Well, guess what? We can text them a link to forms and get all that stuff. We don't need to ask them over the phone. How long have you been in pain? What does it matter? Whether it's 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months.
Who is the previous dentist you went to, and do you have x-rays to bring?
Yeah. Or I love diagnosing on the phone. Well, it sounds like you're going to need this. Or this is a really good one too. Well, I can't guarantee you're going to get a cleaning today. I can't guarantee that. I can't guarantee they're going to be able to extract that tooth today. I can't guarantee. I'm like, no negative talk. No, nothing. No negative talk. And what happens is, one person 6 months ago got mad and yelled at them because they thought they were going to get their teeth cleaned and they didn't. And so now we're going to just talk about this, and just so you know, it's going to be, $350 for that comprehensive exam. Just so you know. Just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. So obviously there's been I don't want to say a change, but there's been a big issue with retaining team members. Hygienists, front desk people leave, and then bringing someone in, that means you have to retrain them. So there has to be something that's almost like a system that you set up so a new team member can come in and learn these steps or these tricks and tips on how to answer a phone better. So can you talk about that?
So we have recordings. We record all of our trainings, and the office gets the recordings. We create a fill-in-the-blank workbook that goes along with the recordings. They get that. And we train the team leads, whoever our team lead is, to be able to, here's how you do it when you get a new team member. You're going to have them watch these 45-minute training videos. Then you're going to simulate with them. Then you're going to ask them to turn in the call slip. And we're training the team leads on how to create the process for introducing all of this to the new team member. And they've got to listen to calls. That's the number one thing people don't do, is they don't log in and listen to calls. And it's shocking the things that you learn just by listening to calls that even have to do with more existing patients. So for instance, a new gal had a patient called, do you have payment plans? We created a financial agreement form for this office. They have Care Credit, they have Sunbit, they have Cherry. Oh, let me put you on hold. I don't know. 5 minutes later, the patient hangs up. Now, okay, someone's got to retrain this gal. The answer is yes, we have payment plans. Or patient called with a denture sore. Team member thought it was a new patient. It was an existing patient. Starts quoting fees for exams to come in, and the patient's like, "Oh, I'll call you back." And the doctor's like, "Wait a minute, that was an existing patient. Who should have free denture adjustments, not a new patient." So there's all these little nuances that you learn just by, okay, got to have a quick conversation with Mary over here because she doesn't know we have payment plans.
Got it. Now, someone's listening to this podcast. They're investing a lot of money in marketing. They don't know how their team members are answering the calls because they record phone calls. They don't listen to them, which happens so many times because it's a lot of work to have to listen to the calls. So can you just talk about how does someone recognize that there may be somebody that needs help with phone skills, basically? They have a practice that needs help.
Well, we like to look at, what is the new patient goal, right? What is your new patient goal? What are you spending on marketing? Marketing companies getting the phone to ring. How well are we converting those calls? And I would disagree with it's a lot of time to listen to calls because you can learn very quickly just by listening to calls for like 10, 20 minutes what's going on, where the gaps are in their training and what they need to know. So and with some of the more sophisticated call recording platforms like Patient Prism, they make it really easy to look in who's scheduling calls, who's not booking, who is, what's a good call, what's a bad call. Really simple. So I would say if your team lead can invest 30 minutes a week to log in and listen to calls, it's going to make a huge difference. So in order for us to work with anyone on a crush the call bootcamp or training, we have to have some kind of access to listening to calls. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to have collaborative accountability with this program. So I would say you're going to need to really have that key team leader be the person who's going to help move this forward with listening to calls and sitting with the team. And we're working with training the team member. Okay, how do we have a constructive coaching conversation about where we could have grabbed this call differently and changed the trajectory of this call, and celebrate the successes. We did a boot camp and their call conversion rate was 50%. And our goal is to get them to 70%. And within the first month, we got them to 63%. So they're getting some success and they're feeling good about it. And I like to look at the annual patient value of a patient in the practice. So Dental Intel has a way to calculate that and say, every time a patient comes and stays in your practice, their annual patient value is $800 or more. This is where why it's so important to get them in the door. Because many times once we get them in, the doctor and the clinical team, they can figure it out. They can have that great experience. It's getting them in the door and keeping that appointment. We're going to text you a link, Glenn, to fill out information that'll confirm your appointment. Can you do that within the next 3 hours? And you might say, oh, I'm at work. I can't do that now. Can you do it by the end of the day? We need that information for your visit to run smoothly. Getting all, not like, well, you're going to get a link, fill out the paperwork. That doesn't work as well as being really committed. Can you do that for me?
Got it. So why don't you talk about the training that you have available for people to learn more about that?
We do a 90-day boot camp, and it's 45 minutes for each training session per week. We like to keep it consistent, same day, same time. They're recorded. They get a workbook, and we create a graduation. So we create a graduation portion of this that they need to score an 80% on their calls in order to graduate, from this program. And we're having really great success with it. We're really setting goals and inspiring them to crush the call and to, really make a difference in patients' lives.
And the goal would be, I think you said, to get them to 70% is the goal?
Yes, usually. So we like to really customize what we do. So we want to see where they're at now and stair step them up, right? So the goal to me would be to get above 50% of the calls.
Got it.
And the challenge that we find is like getting the team member to really think about taking control of that call and not feeling pressured to answer the question right away. Do you take my ABC dental plan? Oh, that's a great question. I'm happy to tell you how that plan works in our office. Can I ask you a few questions first? How'd you hear about us? What made you call us today? I'm so glad you found us. Connect. Then, okay, let me explain how that works in our office. So just by doing that process saves a lot of calls. Because if they go, no, we're not in network with that plan and you'll need to pay up front, click, boom. Many times there's no option with that. So just some small tweaks can easily move them up 10 to 15% in their conversion ratio.
Got it. So how do people find more about the program that you're putting together, the Crush the Call Bootcamp?
Okay. So I have a Calendly link I'm happy to share to book a call with me to talk about your, particular team and what type of call recording you may have. And I'm also happy to supply our scorecard. So you can take a look at what we coach, with our call training, and you can log into your own call recording system and start, scoring your team's calls as well. So that's what I'm happy to give to the listeners. And my website is dentalcoaches.com. You can book a call on my website too.
Got it. Is there anything Anything else that you wanted to cover before we switch to our lightning round Q&A?
Not especially. We're just having a lot of fun with this, and we're having some really good success. And that's what I think is important, to like really celebrate the wins with the team, and, having a good system and something easy for them to follow.
Okay, perfect. So let's switch to our lightning round. For those that haven't listened to an episode yet, I do this in all my episodes. I basically ask the guests some questions that are business related questions through a product called a Pod Dex. And interesting enough, here we go, the Hustle. So it's called the Hustle. It's an app on the phone. I'm going to read Susan some questions. Susan, the point of this is to answer them fairly quickly.
Okay.
First question, what book should you go back and reread as it's made a great impact on you the first time?
10X is easier than 2X. Dr. Ben Hardy.
What is one subscription you can't live without?
Well, I love Amazon, right? It's an easy one.
So Amazon Prime.
Okay. Amazon Prime, yep.
Do you have a favorite business podcast?
I listen to a lot of different podcasts. I don't know if I can pick one as a favorite. I love your podcast, Len. I like I listen to Mel Robbins' podcast. I listen to some of the other dental podcasts out there. So I like to mix it up. Brene Brown, there's a bunch of them I like.
Got it. Perfect. That's a good one. I like those podcasts you mentioned. How do you define success?
I define success that, at the end of the day, you feel like you've made some kind of impact, and you're a caring individual, and people really get that about you, that you care about them, you care about their businesses, and that you're happy with the results, and you're leading a comfortable life.
Got it. Perfect. How many hours a day do you work on average?
Work on my business?
Yep.
Work on a day on average? I want to say 6 to 7.
Got it. What is part of your life experience you would alter if you had a chance to? So what was something you'd be changing in the past if you could?
Oh, that's a loaded question, isn't it? Wow. I think I would have started my own business sooner. Jumped into my own business sooner. I worked for a coaching company for 9 years, and I've had my own business for 7. I think I would have started my own business sooner. Perfect.
A president needs you for a special project. What do they come to you for?
On election day? The president?
Just so funny, that was one of the questions.
It's election day. What did the president come to me for?
Yep.
Communication skills. How to win people over. I'm a woo.
Okay.
How do you win others over?
Who do you look to for advice or mentorship?
A lot of different people. I'm working with an integrator for my business that her name is Jen Hamilton, and I think she's great, and she's helping me with really the strategic growth of my business. So she's a mentor, and I like her. I'm also doing a Ben Hardy challenge, a 90-day challenge on rapid transformation. And I'm looking up the ladder at other successful coaches. I love Catherine Eitel. I talk with Anissa Holmes. I talk with Allison Lecoussier. I talk with my friend Angela Davis Sullivan. There's a lot of people in this space that are brilliant.
How do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you keep a notebook? Do you use voice memos? What do you do?
I love writing things down. So I am one of those people that processes things at night when I sleep. So I always have to have like a pad and paper next to my bedside. And I also use my phone, just the note section of my phone, to jot down things. And I use voice memos. So a lot of different things. I love writing things down. I'm kind of old school that way too, journaling and keeping lists and notebooks.
If you were to write a book about yourself, what would you write about and what would you name it? Tough question.
Gosh.
Put you on the spot.
I know. You really did put me on the spot. I would write about different challenges I've put myself through, like training for half marathons. I built a house. I built a business. And I would just title it, You Can Do Whatever You Want to Do.
Okay. All right. How have you built a successful customer base or client base?
Through referrals, through really delivering customized and personalized coaching calls, coaching programs. Really proud of the fact that many of our clients have been with us 8, 9, 10 years, and trying to always stay connected to what's happening in the industry, networking, going to meetings, and trying to bring the value by being like one step ahead of them. What's next, and building a community. We have a nice community in our dental coaches community of doctors who support each other. We do a yearly summit. So a lot of referrals, and then just getting myself out there on podcasts like this.
Perfect. So you did a really good job on those answers. Thank you so much for participating. So why don't you give the contact information so people can reach out to you if they want to reach out to you about the Crush the Call Bootcamp?
So my email is susan@dentalcoaches.com. The website's dentalcoaches.com. You can book a call on the website. Glenn's going to have the Calendly link and the scorecard. So please reach out to me. I'm also on social media. Direct message me on Facebook or Instagram if that's easier. So a lot of different ways. Love to talk more.
Perfect. Well, this was really good. Thank you for sharing the podcast with me. Guys, if you like what Susan had to say, you'll have her contact information, and we'll also share her Calendly link in the show notes. So check that out. You can schedule and book a call with her to learn more about. I think you were also going to offer a scorecard, weren't you, Susan?
Yes, I'll have a scorecard that you can have a link to. Happy to send that out. And listen to calls. That's my final tip. Listen to calls. It'll really open your eyes.
Perfect. So again, if you like the call, if you like the episode, please share it with your colleagues. Please listen. Please promote us. Please review us. Again, you can subscribe. We come out Fridays at 5 a.m. We're almost done with season 7, entering season 8. It's hard to believe that we've done so many episodes over the years. We started it back in 2017. 2017. We've got a lot of episodes to catch up on. Again, please recommend us to your friends. Please reach out to Susan if you're interested in learning more about her Crush the Call Bootcamp. I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for their continued support, and remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th, back in Fort Lauderdale at the Pier 66 Resort. It can be an amazing event. Speakers to be announced soon. SuperchargeYourDentalPractice.com to learn more. And as I end every single podcast, Susan, thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, your reputation matters. Everyone, have a great day. Susan, again, you were awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Glenn. It was great.